One of the debates which you need to cover in the syllabus is the free will versus determinism debate. And this also links with the nature-nurture debate, so I'll be dealing with both of these in this one video. Let's talk about the free will versus determinism debate first of all. And let's just take one side of the debate, free will. Free will is a concept that has actually exercised psychologists and philosophers for many years. What exactly do we mean by free will? Some people think it means total freedom to behave exactly as you choose. Let's just stop and think for a moment. How free are we? Think about your own life. How free were you today to do exactly what you wanted to do? I think you'll find that you're not actually very free at all. And some people have said that free will is a bit of an illusion. Determinism is when behaviour is not completely free, it is being controlled by other things. And in psychology, we tend to regard behaviour as being controlled by one of three things: biology, the environment, or by our own psyche. You'll find, if you look at the A-level syllabus, that there is an awful lot of determinism and not much free will. There is a compromise position, which some people put forward as being a more reasonable explanation, and that's a position known as soft determinism. And what we mean by that is that we, as human beings, we may not have complete free will to behave exactly as we want, but we may be able to choose between a limited range of options as to how we behave. And this feels like a much more realistic explanation of the freedom in human behaviour. One of the most useful things that you can do in preparing for the examination is to find good examples of each side of the debate. So if we consider the free will side of the debate, you'll recall that in the Milgram experiments on obedience, not every participant obeyed the instructions. Some of the participants chose to exert their free will and they refused to obey. Think of the participants in Solomon Asch's experiments on conformity. Not every participant conformed. Also think about the humanistic approach, which is based completely on human beings having the free will to be the person that they want to be. Those would all form useful examples. Now, you'll recall that there are three different sorts of determinism. Let's consider biological determinism first of all. Now, what biological determinism means is that you are not choosing how to behave, it is your biology that is driving your behaviour. And this may be due to the genes that you were born with, to the organic structures that those genes have developed into, or to your brain neurochemistry. So if you think of good examples that would illustrate that type of determinism, you might find yourself looking, for example, at all the biological explanations that we have looked at. A good one to choose would be the biological explanations of schizophrenia. Another type of determinism is environmental determinism. And this is basically when your environment has influenced your behaviour, so that again, you are not choosing how to behave. Your environment has shaped your behaviour by processes of rewards and punishments. This should remind you of behaviourism. So again, when you are looking for examples of environmental determinism, you might like to look back at the section on phobias. Remember those explanations about how phobias may be formed by associations that were made in childhood? That would be an environmentally determined behaviour. Psychic determinism links very closely with Freudian theory. If you recall, Freud said that our first 5 years of life are very important in determining what our adult behaviour will be, and that in those first 5 years, what our parents actually do to us can cause fixations, and those fixations can sink down into our unconscious minds, producing adult behaviour later in life. So it may be that our adult behaviours are actually caused by the experiences that we had in our first 5 years of life. Now remember, I said that Freud was dualistic. Now Freud says there are ways to gain free will and actually be in control of your behaviour. The first of these would be to actually pass through the psychosexual stages without incurring any fixations. Theoretically, that's possible according to Freud. So therefore, we don't have any fixations sitting in our unconscious mind driving behaviour. The other way would be to undergo Freudian psychoanalysis, which would revisit those fixations, get them out, rework them so that they are no longer fixations and so that they are no longer driving our behaviour, and therefore we can gain free will. But Freud is also very interesting on the determinism side of this debate, because even though we might have a certain amount of free will, either through passing through the psychosexual stages successfully without fixations, or by undergoing psychoanalysis, we nevertheless, as human beings, have instincts. So this is what Freud calls Eros and Thanatos. Eros being the life instinct, Thanatos being the death instinct, and they inevitably drive our behaviour. So that even though we might have free will in certain ways, our behaviour will always be determined because we have instincts.